scores nyo sa ating quiz will reflect po sa ating recitation. Okay, so last time, di ba, may mga hindi nakapagsagot. So at least now, most of you answer. But unlike your quiz, this one, kung sino lang po yung nakapag-recitation, yun lang po ha, hindi po natin iaano lahat. Baka sabihin ni ma'am, ano po, ganito ganyan. So yung nakapag-recitation lang. So yun lang ipiprint screen natin and isi-send sa ating GC. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so before we begin, before I present my slides, I want to ask you something. As a student, since you're a student right now, I would like to ask, why is it, it's some of your classmates, ngayong college, excel. Pero sila, nung high school, LM, at lower years pa, hindi sila nag-excel. Why do some students exert more effort now than when they were in college? Than they were in college right now than when they are in high school. Okay? Again, ulitin ko. Sorry magulo yata yung sinabi ko. Why is it that some students right now excel or put more effort in their college studies than when they are in high school? Bakit? Ayan, may nag-recite na. So let us ask Marlon Burgos.
Good evening po.
Good evening, Marlon.
Para po sa lahat ng po yung chapter natin sa pag-aaral like po elementary, secondary, and sa college po. Lahat po talaga yung need mag-excel. Pero po as of now, para po sa akin, mas kailangan mag-excel ng isang estudyante like me po. Kasi po last chapter na po namin po ng pag-aaral. Hindi naman po sinasabi na last chapter, meron din po kasi mag-aaral na doctorate, yung mag-master. Ano po yung mas inaano po ng Excel, yung situation po natin sa pandemic. Kailangan po kung mag-iisip paano tayo natin yun.
Sa pag-iisip, hindi ko nakuha yung last. Sa pag ganun mo, ano kasunod? Sa pag-iisip, hindi ko na dinig.
Sa last ko ba, ma'am, sa situation po natin sa pandemic po kasi ngayon, mas nare-realize po ng mga estudyante na mas kailangan po talagang mag-excel, mag-aral na mabuti para sa mabaligtad po yung sitwasyon nila. Sobrang hirap po talaga mabuhay, lalo na po ngayon sa panahon ng pandemic.
Ayun, okay. So, para sobrang hirap ng buhay para mabaligtad yung sitwasyon. Kumbaga, kung may sasabihan nga na tayo, bilog ang mundo, umiikot ito. So, ayun. So, lalo na ngayong pandemic mahirap. So, kaya ngayon, marami doon nag-aaral sa college para mabaligtad. And this is the last chapter. Okay. It's nice. Actually, sa mga ina-expect kong sagot ninyo. Joseph Dioneda.
Hello po, good evening po ma'am. For me po, kaya po nag-excel po yung yung isang tao or student dahil po sa environment. Kumbaga, for example po, in a secondary po na habang nag-aaral po yung mga bata, in secondary, kumbaga andun pa po yung pagkabata natin. Tapos and then, pagdating natin sa college, kailangan na natin na umpisahan yung journey natin. Kumbaga, kung ano kinuha nating course, ma'am, kailangan po natin i-level up po yun, ma'am. Kasi mas mahirap ang college kaysa sa secondary, ma'am. Thank you po.
Okay, so environment. And now, kailangan nating i-level up. So, kaganda yung isa, last chapter. Ngayon, i-level up natin. Okay, very good. Reden Ordonez, how about you?
Ayun ma'am, good evening po sa lahat. Ma'am, my answer is siguro dahil nagfo-fall yung question sa hardship sa hardship ng pag-aaral ng secondary and then tertiary. So ayun po, ang college po kasi ngayon ma'am, it's something na natin. Ako nung high school ako, I'm after the achievements. But I realized nung nag-college ako, I'm after the survival. Which is napaka ano talaga eh. Napaka daming struggles. Pero hindi lang just basta ano eh, basta mapag-survive lang, kundi matuto talaga dahil ayun nga, ano po, ang course po namin, education. Nakasalalay din po sa amin yung ano no, yung future na future career ng mga future students namin. So kailangan po talaga na mag-aral po talaga na mabuti. Ayun po.
Okay. So, one of the notable things that you said before, you focus on the achievements when you were in junior high. Now it's about survival, which, and aside from survival, there's something much more. Okay, so, parang bigat talaga ng college, you know, dun sa how you say it, and you're just second year. So, talagang, ano ang nangyari ng first year, first sem and second sem, that you have this mentality. Okay, so nakaka curious kung what happened to you, to all of you, because of that kind of mentality that you have. Matthew, how about you?
Good evening po ulit. Para lang po sa akin, ano po, maturity po, ma'am. Kasi po, di ba po, meron po talaga mga pinanganak na talagang matadalino na po na kaya pong sumabay kahit saan po. Pero po, meron din po mga estudyante, may mga bata po na high school po, LM, para po hindi po sila napapansin sa klase. Pero po, once na na-reach na po nila yung time na kung kailan po sila magmamature at mas matindi na po yung focus nila sa isang bagay, I think yun na po yung mas napapansin sila at mas nag-grow po yung pagiging matalino po na pagiging smart na estudyante. Kaya po ayun, para po sa akin maturity kasi may kanya-kanya po tayong panahon na mag-excel, may kanya-kanya po tayong field kung saan po tayo mas magaling, kung saan po tayo mas competitive. Ayun po.
Alam mo, Matthew, what you said, baka ako talaga naging nostalgic. But I do believe that you're correct. Kasi ako, hindi ako napapansin when I was in high school and elementary. College talaga ako napansin. College ako nag-strive because someone noticed. And someone noticed my potential. Siguro nga, tama ka, maturity. So, in which you could, it's where you do the things that you want. Pwede. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Matthew. Your words, nakakatuwa. Wait lang po sarado ko lang yung bintana. Okay, so, yan lang. Problem ko, sabi ko yung gumagawa. Try natin baka pwede pag nakabukas yung aircon. Okay, so for that, what you said is very correct. Sabi ni Matthew, sometimes in college, dun mo naiiba eh. And alam mo magandaan sa college, this will what will matter. Kasi pag sa college, nag-excel, tapos nag-excel ka dun sa kunwari, sa field mo na yun, madadala mo siya hanggang magtrabaho ka. Tama. Well, you will do the things that you would like to do kasi malapit sa course. Lalo na kung gusto niyo talaga yung course na meron kayo. How about J. Aaron Reyes? I think it's the last, may Veronica. Si after ni J. Aaron, si Veronica.
So ano po, tingin ko po sa priorities po. Kasi po sa experience ko naman po, di ba po sa secondary ko po, nag-focus po ako dun sa sa pagka-athlete ko po. So dun lang po madalas yung time ko. So yung academics ko po parang saktuhan lang yung grade, parang sa makakapasa. Tapos nung po senior high, hindi na po ako nagkaroon ng hindi na po athlete nun. So doon na po ako nag-focus sa academics. So doon na rin po, isa rin po yun sa ko. Yun na rin po dahil kung ba't nag-excel ako sa academics. Tapos ngayon naman pong grade, ngayong po college. Lalo na po ngayon pandemic syempre. Parang may kailangan pa rin ng self-study kaya kailangan mag-excel ka na kahit sa mag-isa ka lang. Sa sarili mo kayang mag-aral.
Okay, so it's good. Thank you, J. Aaron. So you said you are an athlete. And being an athlete is very hard. Ang hirap sa pagiging athlete kasi gusto ng school, manalo kayo. So, ititrain kayo. Ngayon, pagdating na sa time labasan na ng grades, activities na, tapos hindi ka nakakahabol, galit pa sila. Parang, ba't hindi mo na pagsasabay? Parang minsan kasi, imagine, anong oras ang training ng ibang athlete? They will start, ayun pa isa, wala pang credits, ano? They will pag, kunwari na, nagkasama, kasi nangyayari yan sa amin sa school ko before, nakakaloka kasi, tuwan-tuwa sila during the intramurals pa lang yun, tuwan-tuwa sila kasi nananalo yung bata na kesyo ganito, ganyan, magaling sa basketball, kinukuha, ganyan. So, ngayon, gusto nila, after hindi intrams yung school to school laban, gusto nila, after nung laban, yung bata, pagdating na sa klase, makaka-perfect yung mga scores, tapos nagagalit sila, binabagsak nila. Sabi ko, excuse me po, we all know naman that that not all students have the brains and the body. Sometimes, they need more support. Sabi ko, gusto nating manalo. Tapos, gusto nyo agad mapasa ng bata yung mga activities. Tapos, agad makapag-review sila. Hindi naman po lahat genius. Minsan yung mga ganong genius, piling-pili lang po na tao yun eh. So, what we need to do is to give more effort to them. Hindi natin pwedeng ipabayaan. Hindi po, di ba? Gusto lang pala natin na during the laban sa school to school, tsaka lang pala sila okay, tsaka tayo okay sa kanila. Pero pag academics na, iwan natin sila. Kawawa naman yung bata. Paano pa po mangyayari sa mga next athlete? Bakit pa sila mag-a-athlete? Kaya yun yung nangyayari eh. Ma'am, ayoko na po. Ba't ayaw mong sumali? Magaling ka maglaro. Ma'am, hirap po magkabol. Ba't wala na ng player? Nalulungkot. Naliligaw na yung mga teachers. Kayo na lang maglaro kasi wala tayong player. Di ba? So, kung gina-guide, di ba, na parang inaalagaan, paano sila matututo, may further studies, mga ganong, at least, may help yung bata. So, tama. Tama ka dun sa, it's really hard. And the good thing about J. Aaron, he said about priority. Priority is very important. But sometimes, may mga different choice tayo. The reason why priority natin to during that time, it is because that's what we want. We sometimes prioritize the things that we think is the things that we need to prioritize during that time. So, it's really hard to judge other people about their priority talaga. So, let's now begin our discussion. And the reason why I asked you with that, of course, it is very related to our lesson. So, the second unit of our discussion is the learner-centered psychological principles. So, lesson 1, 14 learner-centered psychological principles. Now, we will begin with the first one, cognitive and metacognitive factors. And this is the reason why I asked you that. Number 1 is nature of the learning process. The learning of complex subject matter is most effective when it is an intentional process of constructing meaning from information and experience. So, my dear students, the reason why you are more when it comes to paano ba to? The reason why you are more motivated to learn, you want to learn more, is because you could see that you need to, and aside from that, you will use it na. Gagamitin mo na siya. Kasi ito na yung makabuluhan na. Okay, magiging PE teacher ako. So, yung mga natutunan ko ngayon ay importante na. So, that's one of the reasons why it's very important for you. Medyo mas iba na yung priorities nyo ngayon. Different learning process is habit formation in motor learning and learning that involves the generation of knowledge. Cognitive skills and learning strategies. Wait lang, ano kayo matuturuan? Okay. So, learning schools emphasizes the use of intentional process that students can use to construct meaning from information, experience, and thoughts and beliefs. Successful learners daw, paano masasabi na successful ang learners? Kapag active, goal-directed, self-regulating, and assume personal responsibility for contributing to their learning. Pag yung bata, parang gusto na niyang mag-aral. Okay? So, wait lang. Recorded na video live. Sir. Teka lang po si Dean ay nag-message. Okay. Aha. Sorry po at may mga commercial tayo. Okay. Okay, sorry, ang daming nangyayari. Okay, so now, pag daw kasi si learner, nakikita niya na relevant sa kanya. Kagaya na sa inyo, sabi niyo, ma'am, because iba na po. Ma'am, kasi iba na po ngayon eh. Okay, it's okay, Reden. So, iba na po ngayon kasi ito na po eh. Grand finale na, sabi nga sa kabilang section. Grand finals na kasi ito, ma'am eh. Hindi na siya kagaya dati. Okay? So, that's the reason why alam nyo, kailangan nyo to. Aside from this is the last chapter, kailangan nyo siya sa buhay nyo. Kailangan nyo siya as a teacher. Yung mga nagiging teacher nyo, especially with your major subjects, are, of course, very related sa field ninyo. Na PE teacher talaga sila. Na nakakahanga sila yung nila. Na ito na, yung gusto nyo, ito na sila. So, that is one of the reasons why iba talaga po sa college. Kasi kayo na mismo, meron na kayong direction sa learning. Gusto nyo na siyang matuto kasi alam nyo, kailangan nyo na ito. So number 2, the goals of the learning process. Over time and with support and instructional guidance, the successful learner can create meaningful, coherent, and representations of knowledge. As a teacher, the strategic nature of learning requires students to be goal-oriented. So lagi nating sinasabi yan. And educators can assist learners in creating meaningful learning goals that are consistent with both personal and educational aspirations and interests. Now, the good thing is, in college, mas madali. Kasi, may kinalaman nga siya sa work niyo. However, the problem is, you will teach in junior high school. To construct useful representation of knowledge and acquire thinking and learning strategies, necessary for continued learning success across the lifespan, students must generate and pursue personally relevant goals. So, kailangan meron sila. And initially, students' short-term goals and learning may be sketchy in an area, but over time, unti-unti, they will fill in the gaps. And as a teacher, I know, ito, medyo may hirapan kayo sa part ng students because students are a fan of PE. But, you can help them, guide them, using your subject to fill in the gaps that they have. Maybe the reason why you became a PE teacher is because of you are, the reason why you're a PE teacher right now, maybe you are inspired by your teacher. Maybe you're an athlete. You could inspire your students. So that is one of the things that you could do. Okay? So you could help them, assist them to have their goals as well. Now, number 3, instance construction of knowledge. Knowledge and meaningful ways. Now, knowledge widens and deepens as the students continue to build links between new information. That is the reason why, ito tayo sa atin sa K-12, ano tayo, spiral. Dinig niyan mo, spiral. So, kung ano yung natutunan mo kunwari sa subject mo ngayon, ito yung lesson nyo, may kinalaman siya sa susunod na lesson, the following day kalalaman siya sa susunod na lesson. So, pagtiniban. And aside from that, aside from the subject itself, some other subjects might be the same with you. Pwede mo siyang malink-link. Now, ma'am, ano ibig mo sabihin? Like, for example, sometimes in history, you could link AP, Araling Panlipunan lessons to PE. Sometimes, lessons in science could be using PE. Lessons in math could be using PE. Now, when the students could link, ay, sir, ito po yung natutunan namin sa math. O, di ba? So, pag merong ganito, the students will enjoy that. Kasi, natutunan yun sa kabilang subject, tapos natutunan, na parang nagtibay sa'yo, more on practical application sa'yo, is very important. And the students would learn that and understand that. And mapupunta siya from short-term to long-term memory. Kasi nai-apply niya eh. That is a good thing about construction knowledge. That's the best thing. Kaya my dear students, we need to be complementary with other subjects, especially in junior high school. Kailangan link. Why? Because the students would always think, bakit pa kailangan ko itong aralin? Hindi na ko naman priority to eh. Ang priority ko, dapat ba lagi na lang science, math, ang priority na subject? No. Kasi lahat yan importante. And now, as a teacher, you need to know how to link. Okay? As much as possible nga, you will collaborate, the school will collaborate so that they could link. Next, number 4 is strategic thinking. The successful learner can create and use a repertoire of thinking and reasoning strategies to achieve complex learning goals. Successful learners use strategic thinking in their approach to learning, reasoning, and problem solving and concept learning. Learning outcomes can be enhanced if educators help learners in develop, apply, and assess their strategic learning skills. So as a teacher, we need to help them how to have this strategic thinking. And you know, this is one of the best things that you could do as a PE teacher. Paano? Okay. Team. We usually use, may mga team sports tayo that they could use. And even in online. Okay? So you could ask them how they could do this. Alam nyo, minsan, my student is one of my cousins who's living with us, okay? Sabi, ate, picturean mo ako, meron kami activity sa PE. Sabi ko, ano activity mo? So, kailangan daw makita siya na nagpo-post na gano'n. Sabi ko, sige. Isip siya. Sabi ko, paano gagawin? Basta ka ako, camera lang ako, bahala ka sa kanya. So, nakatayo lang ako. Harap-harap siya na makita. Kung para mapakita niya, mag-aaya niya kung mga ano-ano siya. That is, sabi mo, mababaw naman nun. But it's part of it. Sometimes, yung mga bababaw na strategy will develop into a different thing. Okay? So, mas maganda, mas malaki. So, you don't, hindi mo pwedeng baliwalain yung mga ganyang bagay. Strategy is being thought. And sa inyo, sa PE, napakaganda. Napakaganda po ng inyong lessons na para sa strategy. So like for example, okay class, our lesson is the Philippine folk dances. Now, I want you to perform. Sir, mag-meet po kami, pandemic po ngayon. No, you will not. Do something about it online. O, di anong gagawin ng mga bata? Parang tayo magsasayaw ng sabay-sabay. O, anong gagawin? O, kaayusin, gagamitin yung what they learn from technology, paggagawa ng videos, what they learn from English, the grammar. O, diba, sama-sama sila. And it's very fun. Tapos sasabihin nila, pa-major talaga tong si PE. No. That is a combination of skills. That's how we learn. Strategy is very important. Kahit sabihin nila kayong pa-major, wala akong pakialam. Ang importante sa akin, natututo ka. Okay? That's important. Napaka-importante. And always, instead of saying to your students na our subject is very important, instead of saying that, do research more strategies as a teacher. Paganahin yung creativity nyo on how to tell your students that this is also important without telling them that this is important. Minsan, importante sa estudyante yan. English, hindi nila yan eh. Sabi na, wala daw silang pakialam sa English. English major ako, pero wala daw silang pakialam. Ang importante lang kasi ay math at science daw. English daw, communication lang yan eh. Sabi nila. But, I need to do something. Para ma-encourage yung mga bata to study without telling them, you study. Okay? And, we need to help our students to think critically, to have a strategic thinking. That is very important. Kagaya ng sabi nyo kanina, di ba? One of your classmates said, I think that's Marlon, he said na the reason why you're studying kasi kailangan, bilugang mundo, well, I add the bilugang mundo, but rather, this portion, this part of your, this college thing, ito yung parang, sa sobrang hirap na ng buhay, ito yung para maiba. Okay? And that's what you need that's what you need to kailangan may apply nyo rin yan sa mga bata na itong subject na hindi nyo masyadong pinaprioritize, i-turn nyo without them knowing that they will love the subject. Okay? It's very important. Na sa teacher, napakagaling nun. And strategy, if you will teach that to students, dadami mga estudyante na magaling mag-isip. May tandaan yan. Thinking about thinking. Higher order strategies for selecting and monitoring mental operations facilitate creativity and creative and critical thinking. Sabi dito, successful learners daw can reflect on how they think and learn, set practical learning or performance goals, select potentially appropriate learning strategies or methods, and monitor their progress towards these goals. So, we all have our goal. Now, how can we achieve the goal? My dear students, yung mga teachers nyo nung araw, kung hindi kayo hinayaan, kung hindi kayo na-pressure na mag-isip na kung ano-anong mga activities, hindi nyo kakayanin, or mahirapan kayo mag-isip ng bigger projects. Sometimes, small baby steps will help you to become better. And now, learners, if the learners can also think and solve small problems, it will be very helpful for them. So, yun ang kailangan natin. And number 6, context of learning. Learning is influenced by environmental factors including culture, technology, and instructional practices. Sabi dito, learning does not occur in a vacuum. Ibig sabihin, there's no controlled environment. Hindi siya yung, di ba pag sinabi natin doon sa vacuum, sa science, walang iba. The environment is controlled. Yun lang, kumbaga yung specimen lang. Hindi eh. Para tayong, ang learning kasi, lalo na ngayon, sa hirap. Ayan, ang ingay sa bahay namin. Lalo na ngayon, ang learning ay para kang isang leaf na dilala mo sa isang mahangin na disyerto. Ngayon, ilalagay mo siya, tapos ilipa rin siya. Ngayon, compared to a leaf, ang leaf ay tatangay-tangayin. But you're not a leaf. You're a person. Hindi ka tatangay-tangayin. You need to go through your direction. Kailangan maisip mo na mag-ground ka dito and to go to your direction. And as a teacher, that is our job. That the environment around us, kailangan natin, hey! Shh! Kalmado. Mag-aaral tayo. You will learn. We will learn regardless of the ugly situations that we have. Mainit man sa inyo, malamig man dito sa classroom natin, mahangin man, wag naman lindol. Kasi wag naman lindol. Kasi meron akong co-teacher, lumindol. As in yung time na lumindol na nasa klase tayo lahat. Of course, you will remember that. Yung talagang yumanig yung building namin noon. So I know that lahat tayo nayayanig ng lindol. Yung time talaga na, yung natutunan natin sa earthquake drill ay na-i-apply talaga natin. So, nagkaroon ng lindol. Hindi niya pinalabas yung mga bata. Sabi niya, lahat naman tayo ay mamamatay. So, wag yun. Ang sunog, lindol. Pero ibig sabihin, the common problems that we have, maingay, may mga naglalaro, kailangan kaya natin sila i-settle down. Lalo na ang PE, my dear students. Ang PE, minsan nasa court. Hindi naman nasa classroom si PE eh. So, kailangan kahit sobrang daming mga teacher, lalo kung nabutan nyo ng face-to-face sa BSU, sa Meneses campus, nakikita ko sila, nag-PPE sila, nag-aaral sila. It's either nasa court sila, so sa kabilang bakor, or nasa harap lang sila ng Meneses campus na building. Nandun sila, naglalaro, nagsasayaw. So lahat ng PE, sabay-sabay sila, nagkakarinigan, may naglalaro, may nagbobola, may nagsasayaw, may nagzuzumba, may nag-aarnis. Ngayon, as a teacher, wala ka naman tumayo ka na. Ano ba yan? It's so noisy. Anong gagawin natin? Ang ingay. Nihilo ako. Hindi ganun. Hindi, kailangan. Okay, class, settle. Let's have an activity. So, kailangan meron ka. Kailangan, kasi nga, we're not in a vacuum. Diba? There are lots of distractions everywhere. Okay? So, the classroom environment, particularly the degree to which is nurturing or not, can significantly impact the student learning. And my dear students, as a teacher, tayo po yung babalikan nila. Babalik tayo. Hep. Inaantok tayo ngayon, hindi tayo pwede matulog. Kailangan natin, kailangan may gawin si teacher. So, yun po yun. That's important. Okay? Number 6. Okay. Let us now have the motivational factors and affective factors of the students. Number 7. Motivation and emotional influences on learning. What and how much is learned is an influence by the learner's motivation. In turn, motivation to learn is influenced by the individual's emotional states, belief, interests, and goals and habits of thinking. That is why sabi ko nga sa inyo, when it comes to nowadays is different na. Kasi kayo sa college, mas gusto nyo nang mag-aral. Kasi gusto nyo na tong course, lalo na kung gusto nyo yung course nyo. The rich and turner world of thoughts, beliefs, goals, and expectations for success or failure can enhance or interfere with learners' quality of thinking and information. Believe about themselves as learners and the nature of learning have marked influence in the motivation. The motivational and emotional factors also influence both the quality of thinking and information processing and individuals' motivation to learn. So ngayon, sabi dito, the positive emotions are very important. Kasi like curiosity and everything. Pero yung negative emotions, kailangan matanggal natin. Like for example, the anxiety, panic, rage, and other thoughts. So as a teacher, we need to understand how to help the students. Paano natin sila matutulungan sa motivation? Paano natin sila motivate ang motivation natin, ang emotional nila? Kasi nasa panahon ngayon, ang problema natin, ang daming, hirap na hirap tayo mag-motivate ng mga bata. Paano ba kayo mag-open cam? Paano kayo magre-recite? Ano kailangan natin gawin? So, marami tayong mga bagay na iisipin. Okay? So, marami tayong mga bagay na gagawin to have, to help you to be motivated. And as a teacher, we need to do that. We need to motivate you on how to learn. And we should be very careful about their words. May ibang bata dyan, nasabihan mo na pangit, na kahit anong pangit, hindi ko sinabing pangit, hindi yun. I mean, pangit na words. Sakit. May mga ibang, meron akong kakilala, true story, sabi ko, ate, ba't hindi na nag-aaral si ano? Kabatch ko yun hindi na siya nag-aaral. So, ba't di siya nag-aaral? Sabi niya, kasi sinabihan kasi siya ng teacher niya na nog-nog. Ayun, napikon. Ayun na pumasok. Some of you will say, ano ba yan? Sinayang mo yung sinayang mo yung isang quarter, sinabihan ka lang ng nog-nog, tapos di ka na pumasok. Ako nga it's hard. Sabi nga nila, it's really hard. Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na ikaw nga Hindi natin maano yan. Kasi during that time, you don't know what is happening inside the head of your students. So, ganun. Okay? It's very important. 8, intrinsic motivation to learn, the learner's creativity. Higher order thinking and natural curiosity all contribute to motivation to learn. So, intrinsic motivation is stimulated by tasks of optimal novelty and difficulty relevant to personal interest and personal choice of control. So, curiosity, flexible, and insightful thinking are very important. Ito, intrinsic, sabi nga, intrinsic. So, it has something to do with the person itself. Motivation is facilitated on tasks that learners perceive exciting and personally relevant and meaningful and appropriate. So, we need to give them different tasks that will help them to be more excited sa atin. Kasi my dear students, some people will say, ano ba yun, gusto ko nalang magturo, gusto ko nalang mag-lecture. Di ba pinag-usapan na natin teacher-centered last time? And it's really hard na mag-isip na activities. Lalo sabi niyo, mama naman pwede kong isipin na activities na ihilo na ako. Lalo na pag magde-demo kayo, isipin niyo, ang hirap. Pero kasi, alam nyo, nasa choice minsan na activities kaya nag-aayos yung mga bata. Kaya sila na-excite. So, sometimes it's very important for that matter. Napaka-importante niya. And we need to help them na bigyan natin sila ng mga activities na nakakatuwa and that they will enjoy and they will surely do. Now, intrinsic motivation is also facilitated on tasks comparable into the real-world scenarios and meet needs of choice of control. So, what are the different scenarios that they could use? Okay, so for example, sa inyo, as a PE teacher, ano yung pwede niyong pagawa sa kanila na marirealize sila na has something to do with real-world scenarios? Number 9. Effects of motivation and effort. The acquisition of complex knowledge and skills requires extended learner effort and guided practice. Sabi dito, without learners' motivation to learn, the willingness to exert this effort is unlikely without coercion. The effort is another main indicator of motivation to learn. The acquisition of complex knowledge and skills demands the investment of considerable learner energy and strategic effort along with the persistence over time. Sabi dito, the educators need to be concerned with facilitating motivation by strategies and enhanced learner effort and commitment to learning and achieve comprehension and understandings. Now, my dear students, always remember this. Siyempre, dapat natin naisip kung paano natin motivate natin. So, ano bang pwede natin mga gawin? Ako, personally, my choice of motivation is this. Ang ginagawa ko sa mga bata, wala kaming routine. Di ba merong iba sinasabi like, routines are very important. The only routine that I know, that I do for my students is this. Meron kami every meeting, meron kaming activity na kakaiba. Ano ibig sabihin? Like, for example, first meeting, kahit sa college, text ko sila kasi lagi akong late dahil yung nanggagaling ako sa CEU, tapos papasok ako sa main campus. Sabi ko, text ko sila. Okay, be prepared. Be sure before you enter the class, short bond paper and coloring materials. Okay, kaya bago kami. Next week, don't forget, blah, 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 ganon. Dahil pag mahirap. So ngayon, ano gagawin natin? Ano gagawin natin sa papel na to? Ano yung gagawin natin? Magdodrawing kaya tayo? Parang ganon. So, they will think, ano yung gagawin natin? Isipin nila. Next, yun, magpapa-activity tayo na with coloring, gagawa sila ng slogan. Minsan ayaw nila yun kasi bakit? Galing na kami senior high, ba't may color dito? Sometimes naman, okay everyone, I want you to introduce yourself, but in a very creative way. Ayoko na ng pageant, sawa na ako doon. Ayoko na rin nung kakanta, sawa na ako doon. In very creative way. And yung makakapag-introduce ng self nila in a very creative way, tas naaliw tayong lahat at natandaan ko yung pangalan ninyo, will be exempted sa kanilang quiz. Yun ang sabihin ko. Kung ano na gagawin nila, may mga kung ano kalokohan na, may wawawig, basta masaya. Now, sa inyo, ang nakakatuwa sa inyo, pwede nyo siyang i-ganon different activities. So, different quizzes. Hindi ako basta-basta nagpapaquiz ng 1/4. Minsan may 1/4 quiz sila. Minsan may group quiz. Minsan may oral quiz. Minsan may mga ganito. Kagaya ng ginagawa natin, hindi tayo dire-diretso puro chat box. Minsan gumagamit tayo ng quiz at marami pang iba tayong gagawain. So, every learning may iba-iba. Para nakikita natin lahat nakakapag-participate. Yun. Okay? So, different activities, you need to motivate your students. At sa inyo, napakadami sa PE. Kasi inyo, kailangan nyo rin mag-isip. Ang bata, kunwari, tamad. Sabihin nila, ayoko po mag-jumping jack. Paano ganun? Hindi po ako marunong tumalon. Hinihika po ako. O sige, magdala ka medical certificate. Wala namang mapasa. O, medical, hika. Sabi mo, may hika ka. O, nasan yung ganito mo? Wala mapasa. Tanong mo yung advisor, may hika daw ba ito? Wala. Okay ka na. May regla. Di ba? Iba-iba naman, sige. Pag hindi ka na nagpasa, na lang, ikaw na lang mag-isang buka. Hindi po pala, kaya ko na po pala. Bigla po akong gumaling. Minsan ganun nakakatawa mang isipin, pero you need to motivate the students. Pero hindi mo kailangan sabihin, ikaw tamad-tamad mo, hindi ganun. You need to be creative on how you answer the students as well. So, yun. Be motivated. Effects of motivation and efforts, the acquisition of complex knowledge and skills. Yun nga tayo kanina. Tama. Okay, so let us now have the developmental and social factors. This is very important. And I think it's very important for you as well. Na-miss natin yung face-to-face, Kasi because of this one. Developmental and influence on learning. As individuals develop, there are different opportunities and constraints for learning. Learning is more effective when differential development within and across physical, intellectual, emotional, and social domain is taken. So, individuals learn best when material is appropriate to their developmental level and is presented enjoyably and interestingly. Now, alala ko dati, hindi nag-enjoy yung mga estudyante ko kasi ang ginawa, kasi nag-experiment talaga ako. So, yung naging activity namin na isa, tawang-tawa ako. Sabi ko, sige, lalagyan ko kayo ng stamp sa kamay. Kasi natutuwa yung mga LM nun. Sabi ko, ma'am, ayoko nito. Sabi niya gano'n, ayaw namin yan. Ayaw madumihan yung hands ko. Ayaw nila. Okay, so that's not good for them. Okay, so isip tayo ng ibang activity. Okay, so ngayon maglalaro tayo. Competition. Nung una, ayaw nila. Nung bandang huli, gusto nila boys versus girls. Nagtatala na yung mga babae at lalaki. Diba? But sometimes, since the numbers of boys and girls sometimes is not equal, so sometimes I just have different groups. Meron akong group per grading period. May mga group sila. Tapos, sa college naman, midterm group, finals group. May mga gano'n naman na nagkakaroon sila ng mga different activity versus sila. So, lagi sila may competition. Some students, they like it. Some students, wala silang pakila. So, but, that is what nakakais sa ating, when it comes to social. Kasi iba pumapasok sila and they're more, dinadrive nila yung kanilang motivation to social. So, yun. Next, 11. Social influences on learning. Learning is influenced by social interactions, interpersonal relations, and communications. So, learning can be enhanced when learner can interact, okay? So, and collaborate instructional tasks, okay? So, they said na mas naiintindihan ng bata kapag daw with other people. So, a while ago, development influence, sometimes, diba, sa number 10, we became PE teachers because we are influenced by other PE teachers that we are. Sabi, parang na-inspire siya. So, pwedeng ganun. That's why awareness, understanding of developmental differences among children with and without emotional, physical, intellectual abilities can facilitate the creation of optimal learning context. So, let us now have the individual differences factors. Now, we have, tatlo na lang tayo. Individual differences in learning. Learners have different strategies, approaches, and capabilities for learning that are a function of prior experience or heredity. Talaga sinasabi to. Napapansin ko kasi na there are meron ako sinusutoran before, and this student of mine, sobrang taas ang standards ng kanyang magulang sa kanya. And I asked her mom, sabi ko, kayo din po ba during your time, kayo po ba ay ganito din, competitive, matalino, ganun. Sabi niya, kasi po, pinasa niyo po sa anak niyo eh. Sabi niya, hindi. Wala nga pakialam yung nanay ko eh. Sabi ko, bakit ganito ka sa anak mo? Sabi ko sa kanya, ikaw pala. Hindi na pala ganun yung nanay mo, bakit ganun ka? So, they have different reasons for that. And aside from that, baka maging parent na kayo, makakita kayo ng parent na hindi naman pala katalinuhan. Yung iba nga hindi nga nag-aral. Hindi nag-aral sa dahil mahirap or whatsoever. Pero kasi mas pinili nilang na-fall, parang gano'n. May mga ibang gano'n. Pero pagdating sa anak, makasabi, bobo ka. May mga ganyan ha. I'm telling you, there are parents na sinasabihan na bobo yung anak nila kahit nasa top na. Tapos sila naman, pag tinanong mo kung hindi naman din sila naging top when they were younger. So why the build-up mental problem of their kids ay sobrang taas. Dahil yun. And let us be guided that there are times that it is heredity. Minsan hindi ka naman, ang nanay hindi naman pala matalino. Tapos pinipilit niya yung anak na kailangan mataas. Minsan ganun eh. But minsan hindi rin ba. Some geniuses are born and some geniuses are from born sila, minsan heredity, minsan nagulat na lang sila, genius pala anak. Nangyayari yung kagaya kay Sheldon Cooper dun sa The Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon na nasa isang pamilya may isa lang na matalinong genius talaga. Tapos the rest is just normal beings. really happens. Kaya nga may special school din sila eh. Diba? And sometimes, hindi naman matalino pero masipag. May mga iba naman na sa family, pero may mga iba din naman na hindi. So sometimes, it's really hard to demand to our students to have this kind of very, 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 very high things. Pero, let's not forget, through learning and social acculturation, they have acquired their preferences, how they like to learn. Some learners, they know. Kaya ngayong college, ayan. So medyo mas nagiging okay kayo kasi nga, now you are one step closer to your goal. Na ito talaga yung gusto niyo gawin. Now, educators need to help students to examine their learning preferences and expand or modify them. So, as a learner, you could help them. Paano ba kayo mas natututo? Do you want to have review sessions? O pwede tayo magkaroon ng review? Okay, whatsoever. So, pwede yun. Pwede natin gawin as an educator. Now, learning and diversity. Learning is most effective when differences in learners' linguistic, culture, and social backgrounds are taken into account. My dear students, minsan po kasi, nagkakaroon ng problem kapag yung teacher hindi masyadong tinitignan yung kanilang linguistic preferences, the cultural background, and social backgrounds. Kailangan lagi natin tinitignan yan. Kasi we need some tasks must be accommodating with other tasks. Na dapat pag learner center, pang yung culturally inappropriate na pala, hindi pala dapat ganun. So let us not forget those kind of things. Number 14. Last one is the standard and assessment. Setting appropriately high, and appropriately high, and challenging tasks, standards and assessing the learner and learning progress, including diagnostic, process, and outcome assessment are integral parts of the learner process. An assessment provides essential information to both the learner and teacher at all stages of the learning process. So, the effective learning takes place when learners feel challenged to work towards appropriately high goals, appropriately high. Kasi pag sobrang taas, nahihirapan yung mga bata. Sometimes, bakit ganito? Ang hirap. Ayoko na. Minsan gano'n. So, kailangan let's be careful. Baka sobrang hirap. Imbis na yung bata mag-strive harder, down sila. Ongoing assessment of the learner understanding of the curricular material can provide valuable feedback to both learners and teachers about the progress towards the learning goals. So sometimes it's good to use a standardized assessment tool so that the students could, so that we know as a teacher kung okay pa ba yung students natin. Okay? Now, for our last one, their lesson 2, saglit na lang to. Legal and policy frameworks and learner-centered teaching. Now, RA 10533 is an act of enhancing the Philippine basic education system by strengthening its curriculum and increasing the number of years of basic education. Appropriate funds, therefore, and for other purposes, this act shall be known as Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013 and also known as the K-12. Some of the students will say, Mom, hindi ako lucky kasi po umabot ako sa K-12. I'm so, sobrang sad. Hindi sobrang lucky din sa K-12. Why? Kasi sa K-12, lalo na yung nagsimula sa K-12 system, hindi kayo dapat masasayang sana 4th year na ako ngayon. Hindi dapat ganun. Dapat ang iniisip nyo na because of this K-12 system, you will be more capable. My dear students, sa panahon ngayon, ang pag-aaral ay napaka-importante. Kasi dati, high school graduate lang, okay na eh. Dati naman talaga ganun. Ngayon, lagi siyang nagiging problem. And sometimes, lahat ng bagay ngayon, kailangan 4-year course tapos. And aside from that, we want to be globally competitive. And this is the K-12 is a product of research. There's a need. Kailangan natin maging globally competitive. Kailangan yung standards natin ay the same as the standards ng iba. K-12 is also known as K-12 is an education system under the Department of Education that aims to enhance learners' basic skills, produce more competent citizens, and prepare the graduates for lifelong learning and employment. K stands for kindergarten, and 12 refers to the succeeding 12 years of basic education, 6 years elementary, 4 years of junior high school, and 2 years for senior high school. It seeks to provide Filipino learners with the necessary skills and competence to prepare them to take on the challenges on the 21st century. It will make the Philippines' basic education system at par with international standards by ensuring that it is appropriate, responsive, and relevant to the learner. So ito yung goal ng K-12 system, na maging holistic tayo, na mas magagaling tayo kasi nakikita bumababa tayo. And there's a need for us to be that. Now, some of you will say, Ma'am, this is just more on requirements. Requirements na lang po talaga ang pag-aaral natin ngayon. Kasi ang gawin mo, magbasa ka. Huwag mo kasing gawin na last minute. Kung for example, ang gagawin natin is, lari, kagaya ng mga ginagawa ng bata ngayon, module sila. Dapat kasi doon, hindi naman, kunwari, everyday, gagawa ka din ng schedule. Like for example, Monday, math, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Tuesday din, Wednesday, and Friday. Tapos may pahinga ka na isang araw. Dapat kung ginagawa mo yung math, inaaral mo unti-unti. Ano nangyayari? Sige, gawin na lang natin pag malapit na pasok. Tapos tsaka magrereklamo, puro na lang po tayo ganito. Okay? So, kasi kailangan, i-imitate mo pa rin kung paano ka mag-aaral. And those are the basic skills that we need. Yun ang naging problem. Kahit kayo sa inyo, bakit nahihirapan yung mga, kaya ako sinasabi na, alam nyo my dear students, what you need to do is you need to answer. You need to open ka, answer sa akin, question, hindi lang sa akin but sa the rest of the teachers. Kasi kapag ang ginawa nyo, nakahiga ka, ganun lang kayo, tulog, pag tinanong hindi sumasagot, pag tanong naglalaro ng Dota, o ano na mangyayari sa inyo? Hindi kayo nag-lecture. Tapos pagdating dun sa nagre-reklamo kayo. You know, the difference between some, I'm not saying all, some learners na nag-work, kasi yung goal nila mas mataas sa inyo. Kasi sa kanila, although they have a very limited time, hindi nila iniisip yon. Ang iniisip nila, okay, I have a limited time. Therefore, I should maximize it. Kunwari sa 24 hours, sa loob ng isang 24 hours, 8 hours ako magtatrabaho. 4 hours ako, isasakripisyo ko yung tulog ko, kahit medyo konti ngayon, pero paglabas ko ng college, okay lang, magiging successful din ako. Ganun sila. Yung iniisip ng mga nagtatrabaho. Yung mga nagtatrabaho na nag-aaral pa, mga working student. Diba naman, ang iniisip na nakakahiya naman doon sa mga working student, tsaka may mga anak na nag-aaral, tapos ako, andito, wala naman akong ginagawa, hindi ako nagpa-participate, kailangan mag-aral mabuti. Diba? Yun ang iniisip ng iba. Kasi wala naman po akong ginagawa. Yung nanay ko, binibigyan naman ako ng pang-internet, hindi naman ako pinapakilo sa bahay kapag may klase. Sige, mag-aaral ako mabuti. That's another scenario. But there's always the third people. Katamad. Diba yan? Ang boring naman ito. Talagang boring kasi kung hindi ka makikinig ng first day, ng second day, boring naman ito. Wala akong mapala dito. Hindi ko makailangan ito eh. Basahin ko nila yung module. Tamad ka nga eh. Tamad ka nga magbasa. Tapos sabihin, babasahin ko na lang po yung module. Diba? Wala ka ng trabaho. Nasa bahay ka lang. Naglalaro ka lang. Tapos, ayan, magpo-post ka, mag-share ka ng memes na the education system sucks. Okay. Kahit naman po nung face-to-face, tamad ka din. Hindi lang naman ngayon, di ba? So, you need to think. Kaya huwag kayong masad. Kasi every now and then talaga nagpapalit ng curriculum. Sa dating English. Major in English lang. Ngayon, may minor in Mandarin pa. Kaya yung mga English majors may mga Mandarin classes. Diba? It's lifelong learning. And tayo, we need to study and study and study and study more. After your bachelor's, you need to pass your licensure examination for teachers. Then you need to pass your master's. And then you have doctorate degree. And you need to have more and more research. So it's a lifelong learning. Kasi, kagaya ng technology, ang education, ang trends, ang problems din, ay hindi po nahihinto. Dati nahihinto. Pagkatapos natin ng bachelor's, pwede na. Kasi hindi tayo. Nasa academe tayo. Okay? So now, the K-12 Philippine Basic Education curriculum network. This is the concept. Ito, madali na lang to last na to. The philosophical and legal basis of this K-12 system. Number one is the RA 533, the Enhanced Basic Education Act, the 1987 Philippine Constitution, the BP 232 Educational Act of 1982, RA 9155 Philippine Governance Act, the Vision Mission of Statements of the DepEd, SUTEL 1976, the EDCOM Report of 1991, the Basic Education Sector Reform Agenda, and the 4 Pillars of Education. Yan ang mga legal and philosophical basis ng K-12 na ginamit nila, that's why napasa yung batas na yan. And now, a K-12 learner, a K-12 graduate must have the following. What is the nature of the learner? A learner must have a body and spirit, intellect, free will, emotions, multiple intelligence, learning styles, constructor of knowledge, and active maker of meaning, not a passive recipient of information. Gusto nila, ikaw yung klase ng learner, pag-graduate ka ng K-12, marunong ka makipagdebate, marunong kang, hindi ka sasabi, oo, hindi, marunong ka. Bakit oo? Bakit hindi? Bakit mo nasabi yan? Okay. Needs of the learner, isang learner daw kailangan ng life skills, self-actualization, and preparation for the world of the work, entrepreneurship, and higher educations. Kaya ano nangyari? TLE talagang binigyan ng diin. Dati hindi naman. Ngayon, ang taas ng TLE. Needs of national and global community. Ayan, kagaya ng sabi nyo kanina before we begin our lesson. Poverty reduction and human development. Strengthening the moral fiber of the Filipino people. Development of a strong sense of nationalism. Development of productive citizens who contribute to the building of progressive, just, and humane society. Ensuring environmental sustainability. Global partnership for development. That is the needs of national global community. Now, from there, ano sinasabi sa amin yan? What is your reason? Because when you create a curriculum, when you check the different modules, ito po yung nakapasok doon. Itong nature of the learner, needs of the national global community, yung mga yan yung mga nakakasakit sa ulo natin na yan. Yan ang kino-consider bago tayo maghanap ng lessons. Okay, walk through ko kayo ha, paggagawa kayo ng syllabus, lahat-lahat. Curriculum, whatsoever. Nagsisimula tayo dyan sa mga yan. The nature of the learner, anong klaseng learner ba tayo? So, okay, as a body, spirit, intellectual, free will. Paano natin ma-apply yun sa PE? Bakit natin kailangan ng PE? Kasi kailangan has a body and spirit and intellect of the different learning styles of PE. So, ano yung mga lessons para dyan? Ayan, pasok na yan. Okay, parang life skills. Paano natin mapapano yung life skills? Ano yung mga different life skills na pwede natin i-under? Ito na yan, pasok na yan. Ito yung lesson para dyan. So, yun. So, ngayon, sakit sa ulo, no? Sobrang parang gano'n. Ang sakit sa ulo po. Okay. So, yun ang gagawin natin. Yun yung paggawa ng activity. Okay. So, yun lang po. So, that is our lesson for today. Okay? So, don't worry, I will not ask you to have a lot of activity today. So, everyone, kindly open your mic. Open your camera, and Matthew will do the picture taking before we have our reflective